Hello and welcome everybody to episode 24 of HeroesHype Live, the show where we talk everything Open Division, both EU and NA. And this week, bearded brethren number 1 to my left. How you doing, Dunk?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Nice. What'd you think of the games this week?
Oh, dude, it was sick. Heroes to the hype.
Exactly. Here's to the hype. You heard it here first. And bearded brethren number 2, my special guest this week is none other than Bahamut. How you doing, my dude?
I am doing amazing. Thank you guys so much for having me here. This is an honor. I'm just ecstatic to be here to talk about Heroes of the Storm on a podcast about Heroes of the Storm.
It's the place to be completely honest. Like, HGC is special. I think the community that we have built around the game has become one of the best in all of like gaming culture, to be completely honest. And the Open Division specifically, I think, has produced some of the best talent and some of the best experiences that I've ever seen. So, especially this week. Holy crap, this week was amazing. And I am so excited to get into it. So, without further ado, we're going to go right into talking about Europe. So, Dunk, top 4 this week were...
Top 4 this week? Yeah. Team Singularity.
Team Singularity, once again, making it to the top 4. And Terra's Radzina. So, tell me a little bit about that series from your perspective.
So, we have... I wouldn't call them newcomers because they've been playing since week 1, Terra's Radzina. And we talked a little bit about them in our very first podcast about a team that looked like they had a lot of promise, but we would see how well they fare. Didn't quite live up to the hype in week 2 when they got knocked out. Be known in the first week, they did take a game off Team Singularity, I believe. But coming in this week, stronger than ever, ripping up the boards. They beat the 4th seed team, the 3rd seed team, and the 1st seed team to go to the finals. And that's just amazing.
They were a freight train, you could say.
Yeah.
Just mowing everyone down. As Dunk was saying, they took out the 4 seed Valhalla. They took out Granite Gaming, who was another team that I think they made the finals last week.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, they made the finals last week. And then they took out Team Singularity 2-0.
Which is insane.
To be honest, the games weren't that close. They were competitive, but they were not like nail biting close, you know? I was honestly just like thrilled to see the play from coming out of them, and especially Guru's Tracer play I thought was phenomenal. He was able to like flank, control all the just any point contention. Like they couldn't get around him, and they Singularity was just having a tough time dealing with them the entire time.
Oh yeah. At one point, he soloed SNG Nutty, who was our MVP of week 1 for Europe, in the Genji versus Tracer matchup, which typically I would favor Genji for, but he came in and just took him by surprise, completely out-trading him. Didn't get the kill, but did force him out of the team fight, which did make for some sweet plays.
Yeah. So going forward, we'll go to the next semifinal. We had ePunks, which is Blade's team. And if you don't remember Blade, he was on Team Expert in Phase 1 of HGC last year. And then they went up against Team Go. And I know, Dunk, that you have been favoring Team Go for the past few weeks. And I'm sure you were excited to see them come out with a 2-1 here.
Oh, yeah, dude. No, I'm all about that Team Go hype train. They earned my respect and my heart in week 1. I've been saying it since week 1. I thought Team Singularity above and beyond. They're such a great team. They're going to win this week. Called it. Week 2, Team Go didn't quite live to the hype. I believe they lost to Klaus and Army. But this week came in hot, playing that Lucio Tyrael composition with the double team survivability for the team fights. And their compositions were always about the go, 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 which I love to watch. So much hype coming out of them when they just run at their opponents, try to get these kills.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of talking about their opponent, ePunks, I was following them a lot admin-wise, and one of my favorite moments, they actually took out Manticore, who was the number 2 seed, in the quarterfinals, which I thought was actually quite surprising. I thought Manticore had been playing pretty well that day, but ePunks came in hot you know. One of the highlights from this week for EU was Epunks ran a solo Dahaka warrior composition on Cursed Hollow against Manticore and ended up winning by like 3 levels. It was Dahaka, Abathur, Genji, Rhaegar, and Greymane, and they were just controlling the map the entire time. Manticore didn't really know what to do.
I mean, I gotta say, like some of those that draft right there is so hard to deal with because you don't know where to be. Like, how do you respond to an Abathur Dahaka? You've got split pressure, split soak. It's just, of course, now that you say that, you know, I do believe I missed that one, but you know, 3 level difference kind of makes sense. But as I don't know how the team fights went, I definitely want to go back and watch that one.
One of the scariest things is if either Genji or Greymane get on you with an Abathur hat, you're most likely gonna die, even if it's a 2v1 with the hat. Like you're gonna die.
The other big thing to consider too is just the clone options too. I mean, the Greymane clone, 2 Worgens chasing you down in a fight is not something you ever really want to deal with. So definitely, it's such a strong draft, and I honestly, it might have just caught them so off guard that it just worked out so well.
Yeah.
Can we call that the Who Let the Dogs comp? Who Let the Dogs Out comp? I think that's a good name for it.
Sure. From here on out, that's the Who Let the Dogs Out comp. just for you. Just for you. So moving on to the finals, we had Terra's take out Singularity 2-0, and Team Go won 2-1.
Yes.
Now, going to the finals, Terra's Radzina. Let's see where, I don't remember where the maps were. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the maps here. I think game 1 was BOE, if I remember correctly. Yeah, BOE was the first game. And if you didn't watch that one, that's the game to watch the entire tournament, I think. Because it just shows how dominant Terraz was the entire tournament.
Oh, yeah.
And how strong their team fighting, especially against all these top-tier amateur teams, has become over the past few weeks. Like, going from week 1, when everything was random and they had to play Team Singularity round 1, to beating them handily and then beating Team Go pretty handily in the finals as well, I think is the most impressive thing for me.
The other factor too is... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely check out their team fighting. Terraz Radzina was ripping it up and showing people how to make picks within a team fight. They were doing such a good job forcing an ultimate to protect one carry and then just immediately swapping to an unprotected target. And you watched it over and over again, these fights where they make the kills happen. And you need to go back and just tear apart those fights and just realize how much control they had to make those kills happen.
Now, I actually have a clip from that game 1, that I want to share with everyone. So let me just get it set up. And okay.
To defend a little bit here without dying, and then they can continue the defense for real into a counterattack. But there's too much damage being done here by Team Go on the Immortal. They get the full 50% point. That is so important. They're down 2 levels, they're down a talent. It was a bad position.
Oh
Never mind, doesn't matter. They're gonna get absolutely annihilated.
It doesn't matter. Tai gets shredded. The cocoon is dropped. That will stop Genji, but stop him from doing what? Your team is dead. He's managed to he's cleared out the cocoon.
Okay, so looking back at that highlight, I want to point out one player in particular, and that was Guru. I mentioned his Tracer earlier, and in this game in particular, he was playing the Genji, and that's the amount of damage that he did after the Hanzo arrow was actually ridiculous. Like, Grubby said it right. They got absolutely annihilated.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Making full value of that Dragon's Blade, dude. Multiple targets every single time. The Dragon arrow coming in from Hanzo to stun 4 targets, it was just absolutely brutal. There was nothing that Team Go could do there, especially with the Sanctification immediately on it to prevent any counter.
Yeah. And I honestly think that how well Terraz did going in game number 1 kind of mentally I'm trying to think of the word here. I'm
They set
drawing
the
a
pace
blank.
for the game.
Yeah,
Like,
they set the pace. They had the momentum going
Mm-hmm.
through, and that's the reason they won game 2 as well. That one was closer than game 1, mind you, and it actually came down to the very end. Like, was it? I think it was Towers.
Now that game where you showed that clip, that was game 1. That was Battlefield of Eternity, correct? And that was for the finals. Like,
Yep.
in situations like that, and I've seen in previous casts, like you kind of said it perfectly. Is it's one of those situations where, like, if you can get a huge team fight like that and then you end the game, or even just getting a team fight like that really does kind of set the mood for the game, because some teams will get, you get wiped like that. That's kind of hard to come back. I mean, your team needs to bounce back right away, and there's a lot of calm things that you have to go through, and it's just insane that, like, they went ahead and they kind of put their foot down and said, this is how we're going to start off our series together.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, like, even for the rest of the game, it could also lead to the rest of the series. Just the mental fortitude of the team that just got wiped has to be incredibly strong, or the team that won that fight is just going to roll you over the rest of the series.
Exactly.
Because you can't do anything. You're kind of just sitting there like, I don't know what to do. What do we do?
Yeah, definitely. Really good way for them to start out the finals, because having such a dominant game 1 is beyond tilting as a team that makes it to the finals, because you work so hard to get there, and then this team comes out and just bodies you. It is the worst feeling trying to go into that second game thinking, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this.
Yeah, for sure. So with that, we also had on our stream, the HeroesHype stream, we also had ePunks going up against Team Singularity, and that series actually ended up going 3 games. ePunks pulling out the victory. Were you surprised by that at all with how they were playing in the semis? Or I honestly think that Singularity they looked weaker Tuesday than they had in the previous 2 weeks. Like, the rotations weren't as quick, team fights weren't as precise, drafting was a little off.
I talked a little bit about this on last week's show, how being at the top, you're already there. You need to buckle down and focus. Think about how much higher we can get. We don't want to just be right here or right here and then let them kind of inch up towards us. No. We want to get farther and farther and farther up. It's like climbing the leaderboard. 9,000 points isn't enough. Go to 10,000. 10,000 points is enough. Go to 11. And I feel like this last week, we kind of saw them slow down a little bit. I understand there's only so many more weeks left in the tournament. They have a lot of points accrued, and they have that ability to take it easy. But I definitely feel like they maybe didn't come to this week as seriously as they did the other weeks.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. They could have honestly just been run down, and it got to the point where they said, you know what? Even if we take 4th place in the standings, that still gets us X amount of points. And, if we come back stronger for week 4, maybe they're just like, you know what? We just take it easy. We relax. We just have fun with these games. Maybe that's why some of the rotations were a little looser. Some of the drafting was a little bit more free, but it's one of those situations where you kind of look at it. And so maybe they do it mentally and they say, you know what? We take a break. We just have fun tonight. We play and have a good time. We come back next week. We're going to be stronger because we're kind of taking a little bit of a break. And some of that mental fortitude, as Argy mentioned, that's part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And important to note, because Manticore dropped a little earlier in the tournament, so they got a lot less points than Singularity did, Singularity extends their lead that much more from the lower team. So they didn't really need the points. They're still, I believe, 90 or so points above Manticore. Maybe a little more. No, they're well above, probably a little 100.
Singularity's first at 300, and then Manticore is second at 220. Team goes
80 points.
Team goes third at 205, so they're really close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still, like, that's a pretty big gap, and if they can secure themselves top 4 every single week, that's where it's at. Though I will say, 3rd place does make a big difference because you do get that sweet money.
Yeah,
that is
for sure. That's a nice little bonus on top of the points, and in the end, I think that's what it is. It's a bonus.
But hey, spread the wealth, guys. Let people take a dive. Let them win the game.
Yeah, for sure. So looking back on EU this week, were there any disappointments or surprises that you noticed? For personally, Dunk.
Yeah, Terra's Rodzina. After they kind of dove that second week, I was like, maybe I overhyped them. They took a game off Singularity the first week, but maybe I don't know. Maybe it was just luck. Maybe Singularity didn't take them seriously. But seeing them come out fighting, swinging as hard as they did, no, that's the team to watch right now.
Yeah, I think so too. They have all the momentum going in the next week, and I'm expecting at least a top 4 finish from them. I'd be a little disappointed if they didn't. Actually, for the rest of the tournament with how they played this week.
Oh yeah.
What about you, Bahamut? For how much EU that you did watch?
I tried to catch as much as the only thing is like it's like the middle of my workday, so it's like I can try and catch a little bit here and there. But honestly, the big surprise was actually I'll take a stab at it. It's Terra Rodzina.
Yep.
They showed up because I had seen them in the previous weeks and they had some strong plays. Definitely, they showed up, but they didn't get. They didn't show up like they did this week. And so I was actually really, really excited to see them progress and make it through. And that was the one thing that I kept having on my other monitor. I kept seeing them. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get behind this. Like, let's keep going. And they came into every different game. It wasn't the same game. Like sometimes you see in some of these OD games in the Open Division, sometimes you'll have a little bit of a repeat draft. There's some standardized things that you'll see on maps, but they came out and showed a couple different things and they had some great plays as well. And the big thing too is just taking that finals just 2-0 like that. It's so insane to me. And also beating Singularity after just watching them throughout the weeks and also, doing the recap and just, back-to-back weeks of scoring and them sitting so high in the standings. It was phenomenal to see them just absolutely beat them out in a 2-0 shutout.
Yeah. I'm thinking now, after that week, I think Terra's can be one of the 2 teams going to the Crucible. They look that powerful to me.
I actually don't disagree with that at all.
I think them and Team Singularity are going to be the 2 favorites now. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Team Go upset them, though. And then we got teams like ePunks, Granite Gaming, Manticore, Valhalla that are all there. They're in the running. They're just they're like a step behind, I think, right now. And if they can catch up, I think EU's looking to be very competitive and very close
honestly,
race going into the
I gotta
playoffs.
say it for both regions, and I'll probably say at the end of NA as well. But and Jake, actually, I heard him say it last night on stream. This is the most competitive Open Division we've seen, and he's not wrong. Like this, I have seen so many amazing games between teams that every week, like I get so excited for my Mondays now because there's Open Division on Mondays. Like the only time of the year where I've actually been like, yes, I get to wake up and tomorrow's Monday. Like it's a work day, but there's still Open Division.
So speaking of Jake, let's transition over to North America, where we saw SMV once again make the final for the 3rd time in a row. However, Trait Value upset XD and took the other final spot this week. Now, if you don't know who Trait Value is, a few of the members from Oh My Science, who were a strong competitor in the HeroesHype Amateur Series over the past couple months, Troy 1010 and Seryu formed a new team with Srey, which is the big name that everyone will know. And then they have Valimar.
Valimar and Alex.
Valimar
and Alex.
Yeah.
Alex was, I wouldn't say surprising because I have played against him in like Team League and Hero League before. And he's definitely a strong player. But I'd never seen him play in a competitive environment before. And I was not shocked, but pleasantly surprised at how good he was. What about you, Dunk? What did you think of Trait Value?
I was really happy to see some of these players doing as well this week that we really haven't seen in the previous weeks. And knowing how Saray has always been kind of like the shot caller for all his teams he's ever been a part of, I'm attributing a lot of that to the presence of Saray. He controlled their team fight so well. I remember specifically, we saw a lot of Anubrak webs, into roots, into Junkrat mines, and it was creating like this crazy new pick strategy where it would make them use up these cooldowns to protect a single unit, and then they would just keep going and just keep doing it. And like it was crazy, like the amount of like single target control they used to create like kind of like extended pick fights. Mm-hmm. And I attribute a lot of that to his ability to control that micro and really focus his team onto each target when necessary.
Yeah. Trade Valley definitely came in extremely aggressive. And I want to say Saray was the shot caller just from how he was positioning himself and how he was moving around the map. And just they were invading camps left and right. They're stealing them away, getting picks. You know, I think that's part of Saray's just play style. He wants to be aggressive, and it definitely showed, and it paid off against XD.
I think you actually have a clip that perfectly demonstrates the way their team fights were working.
I do. We'll get to that when we get to the finals. I wanted to quickly talk about the other semifinal, which was SMV versus Team Nightcare. Now,
Team Nightcare, not Nightmare, as I mistweeted.
Team Nightcare is LZ Gamer, Taliant, and I have the player list here. Legend, VFDG, and the one and only Glogan. Now, Glogan's known for a lot of specialist heroes, like mainly Gazlo, Probius, not as much Asmoden. Murky, he plays a lot of, but he's become that solo laner for them, and he was playing mainly to Haka and Malthael over the past week, and I don't know if that's just something new to him, but he looked a little shaky on it compared to the other solo laners, but he definitely wasn't a slouch by any means.
Oh yeah.
I do believe he did, or maybe I might be confusing with another series. He picked up last rites often on the Malthael, if I'm not mistaken, and didn't they pair that into a Tracer at one point as well?
Possibly.
I do believe so. I don't remember which game it was, though. I do believe.
I feel like it was in the finals. I was watching it last night, and I picked the Malthael into the Tracer, and they just had that blow up with potential last rites into the Tracer bomb as well, and just a lot of really interesting stuff coming out of NA with some of those, as Argy kind of said, some of those unique or those big names that you have on the teams, and they're kind of picking up some of these huger heroes and just making these crazy gameplays.
Yeah, definitely. The rest of that team, though, like on Team Nightcare, I'm really wondering if Nightcare is a reference to how old those players are, because some of them are a little bit older than your average gamer. I think Taliant's in his late 20s, early 30s, but a lot of experience there. Taliant once told me that he knows more than me about heroes, and they then beat us in the scrim, so I have to agree with him now forever. But definitely some really interesting games coming from them. I really like Glogan in the off lane. I think if you're gonna trust anybody to be in that off lane, it's got to be that guy who in Hero League all he does is push his own lane. He understands he understands and knows when to back off. He understands when he can go in and do the things. And I think it's an excellent pickup. I really do like the fact that a lot of his solo lane focused skills are transferring so well to this current meta.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very happy with how that team has been playing. They look like I don't want to say a contender, and I'm not trying to be mean, but I think that they're a step below right now, and they definitely played well this week. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're like a gateway team for anyone that wants to get into the top 4. You know what I mean? Kind of like
fair.
Kind of like if you looked at StarCraft, GSL round of 16 or round of 32, there's always like a player in there that's considered the gatekeeper, and it's always extremely tough to beat that person. But if they make it to the next round, they don't look good.
Yeah. And to point that out, looking at their bracket, the teams they beat to get to their top 4 finish, Flaming Laser Sword, who was our team to watch from last week, that took SMV to 3 games. Actually, that was a 3-game series. They beat ODI, who was our 3rd place finish from week 1. And they beat Evil Medieval, who is the currently #1 ranked team for Heroes of the Dorm on the unofficial power rankings. So definitely that team that says, hey, get out of here. Doors locked. Gates are closed. You don't have the key.
Yep. And I'm hoping that they continue to get better and better and become a contender instead of a gatekeeper. So so moving on to the final, we had SMB up against Trade Value, and the score was 2-0, but it was not by any means a blowout. This was, in my personal opinion, the best series I have ever seen from an amateur Heroes of the Storm tournament. It was extremely close, extremely well played by both teams. The team fights were engaging and tense. Like, I was watching Twitch chat on the other monitor while I was doing the observing stuff, and I'm just seeing these games are giving me anxiety. They're so intense. Like, that's how I felt. Like, it was so good.
I honestly, I gotta say just really quick, like my parents are in town and my dad was actually in the kitchen. It's connected to my living room and I had it on my TV. He wasn't even working, like he was watching it with me. Like even he was kind of interested in it too. So definitely like those games were amazing to watch last night.
Yeah. Going into game 1, it was Infernal Shrines. We saw Tiger JK on the Kerrigan. Both of these games in the final had a Kerrigan in it. One for each team. Tiger JK's Kerrigan is extremely aggressive. I almost want to say he's the shot caller with how aggressive he's going, or he's just winging it. I don't want to believe that that's what's happening, but sometimes it feels like it.
Having played with him in some pickup games and seen the comms and scrims, Tiger JK is a very vocal player, and I wouldn't be surprised if they told us that he is their official shot caller or like their go-to shot caller because of how vocal he is. But he is definitely probably my favorite Kerrigan player to watch. His aggressive play style is like, it just speaks volumes to me. And I told him one time that he was my favorite Kerrigan. I think I mentioned that in another different podcast, but I'm really happy to see that it's become such a bigger thing right now with the role he's playing on his team.
Yeah. So Bahamut, on SMB in particular, which player are you always looking out for to make those plays?
I honestly gotta say, I think I agree. I think it's just the Tiger JK at that point. I realistically think that he kind of has that impact for the team, and like I hate to just kind of put that out there and just be like he's the one, because he's a decent sized name as well with the team. But I don't know, like it's one of those things, like I watch some of his plays and it's just like, dang, like okay, all right, let's that's one of the players that I really appreciate the way that his play style as well as just his aggressiveness too.
Oh yeah. My go-to player on that team has got to be Leon Black. He's on a team with 3 huge names, and he's the new guy in the room, and playing tank for those guys. He's been on point all season so far with creating those initiations, and I think they control his role pretty well. I haven't seen the comms. I don't know who's their official shot caller. For all I know, it's Leon Black, dude. He's just in it and he's calling it. But this guy has had so much control, and we mostly see him on ETC. So watching him slide into their DMs like no other, it's pretty awesome.
Well, I do have to say he did get I don't think I'm misremembering on this, but like towards the end of last season of the HGC, he filled a couple spots on some of the pro teams, if I'm not mistaken, for like a weekend, or not a couple spots, but he filled a tank role.
He filled
one
for
weekend, I think.
One weekend.
Yeah. Right. And he still showed up, like for being basically not even an open division player at that point, and he showed up and they didn't win, but he still had phenomenal plays. And to see him now with a team that I think he really excels with, I gotta agree with you, Dunk. Like that's it. I think he's found a lot of good players that he jives well with, and kind of everyone really works together very well for that team. And I'm really excited to see SMV. Like, I personally hope that they take back-to-back weeks, because I just want to see more of them. That's really it. Like, not to like BM any teams in the actual HGC, but like I kind of like think that SMV, like, they're big contenders for the Crucible, and they need to watch out on the side of HGC.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as I said, game 1 was extremely close. I think it was a core rate, or a base race, that ended up being like SMV won, but the other core was at like 30%. It was extremely close, because I don't know, that was one of the better games.
Yeah, the Winions trying to take the game.
And then moving on to game 2, we went to Volskaya. Now, this was a little surprising. Going off the first game anyway. SMV was just kind of dominating the game. They were controlling all the camps, especially the regen camp, which it was incredibly important. They were winning the team fights on the objective pretty handily for the most part. And then we get to the late game, and knowing it's Volskaya, it's going to go to the late game. Trade value started fighting back, and fighting back, and fighting back, and fighting back, and all of a sudden it's 20-20. Like, it was a 4-level deficit. They tied it up at 20. I think they actually got to 20 first by like 10 seconds, which is incredible. And I wanted to show the clip of how that started. So let me get that quickly, very, very, very quickly set up. Okay.
Dicey.
This draft for SMV is terrifying, something that we can talk a little bit more after the game, but right now SMV pushing up, trying to take another keep for themselves, now a 4-level deficit. There's a concussive mind that they've been needing for a long time. The silence on Leon Black too, but nothing further. There's
big Riptire!
Plus the Junkrat is a god.
Alex brings them back alive into this game, finding the double kill, the mosh pit to confirm the 3rd kill, and 4 members.
All right, so SMV's pushing the keep. They do get it, but by the end of it, it's starting to shoot down their own team. Leon gets silenced from the Twilight Dream. I think Valamar's dreams that whole series, or at least that whole game, were quite good. And then, as I pointed out, I think I pointed out earlier, Alex, that Riptire coming from right above,
Devastating.
It just annihilated 3 people, just boom. And that's like an Overwatch Riptire right there.
Oh yeah. Taking a fight 4 levels down, I don't even care about the keep, but taking that fight 4 levels down, it falls like right as the fight starts. The concussive mind to put Arthas way back into your team, hitting the combo, then immediately hitting a Riptire. And for those of you that don't know, if you didn't catch it, the Riptire actually interrupted the Sanctification. And it immediately went from being 18 to 14 to 19 to 16. They closed that gap so quick, and that was astonishing. Very rarely do we see a fight go that bad at that level difference for the leading team, I should say.
Yeah, I was when that fight happened, I'm like, ooh, we got a game, boys. We got a game. But yeah,
I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it a little more, because I talked about it a little earlier, and I kind of wanted to show the clip earlier because it exemplified it so well. Alex, with those Junkrat minds, and he did this in all the games they played that night when he was playing Junkrat. So good at putting people in the worst spots with his concussive mind.
Definitely.
Like, just amazing, and it created so many plays. Didn't come out with the W this series. But there's a future for that kid in the Junktown.
Yeah,
I believe that's where they're from.
I swear it was double digits in how many picks that he got off of a good concussive mine. It was actually kind of ridiculous. So, anyway, now looking to next week, we're close to halfway through the season for Open Division. Do you see any teams coming up, or do you think it's going to be the same for teams every week that are going to be competing for that top spot? Dunk.
I don't see a week where SMV isn't in the finals. 3 for 3 right now. Only 2 for 1 though on the W's. XD kind of looked a little weak this week. I'm interested to see what's going on there, but I mean trade value did look really strong, so it kind of levels out. They did take the 2-0 to take the third place seat over Team Nightcare, which is important because they have looked like a good team. We had a couple new teams that have some bigger names that we didn't really see too much out of because they got knocked out kind of early. Like I believe Hate to See It. I'm trying to find out who they lost to. I want to say it was
XD 2-1.
Yeah, they lost to XD to 2-1. Could be a team to watch if they're going to stick to it. A lot of familiar names on there. Insomnia, for those of you that know Insomnia, former pro player. Trap Queen, Elheim, Legend, Kawaii Rice, all big names in the amateur scene. But other than that, I think top 4, we're going to see XD and SMV every time. Trait value with how they played this week, I would say is going to be top 3 almost every single week, if not top 2. And like you said before, Team Nightcare, kind of the gatekeeper. It'll really be up to see which team replaces them each week. And that'll be the story to talk about. Who takes that 4th seed?
Yeah. Other teams that I'm looking at are Protected, by the way. They 2-0'd EID. EID is Dark Chimera, Battery, Nesper. They looked quite strong, actually, until they ran into Trait Value, who 2-0'd them. EID, as I mentioned, another team to watch out for. I think if they can fix a few small issues, they could easily be a top 8 team going into the playoffs. One team that I personally want to see do well, and it was just unfortunate this week, is King's Gambit. And that's the Ebros, Kevin, Toby, and then Araragi has come back.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who he is, he was a professional player way back in 2015. He played in Heroes Rising, I think was the last LAN event that he played at, and he was under SK at that point. I'm looking forward to see what he does once he becomes committed to a team and they're working hard to get better, because I think he's a very strong player. Let's see, anyone else? I haven't been able to watch Flaming Laser Sword, but from what you've told me about them, Dunk, I want them to do well. I want to see them, and I'm gonna try and see if I can get Jake and Colin to follow them next week. That's what I want.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely a team that needs some focus. Losing it out early, unfortunately, they have the short end of the stick. They keep getting these good teams early on. I mean, they went against Team Nightcare the second rounds, and they went against SMV, I believe, their second round last week. It's unlucky when you get stuck in that terrible spot on the bracket, but with a little bit of luck and a little bit of hard work, I think they could upset. They could be the Terra's Rodzina of NA.
I think so.
That's a bold state.
With how they looked last week, I got to watch a couple of the games. Yeah, they're definitely they definitely can make top 4 in a tournament. I just want to see them consistently get there. So, moving on, I want to transition a little off talking about the Open Division tournament itself and talk about Bahamut. I've had you casting for HeroesHype for a long time, and I want you to talk about why you got into casting and what about it do you enjoy, and then your experience casting Open Division, because I know you casted with Halloran week 1.
Right. So, and actually, so it's kind of it's great that you mentioned him. I started out in Chair League as a player from listening to podcasts of other, Here's the Storm podcast content creators, and they mentioned that league, and I was like, well, I have a friend. We want to play a little competitive, so we started doing that. And actually, I started watching some of the casts afterwards, and I was like, man, like competing is fine. Like I enjoy playing the game, but like casting is just like that is so much more fun to me and so much more appealing. I gave it a try a couple times, and actually, the big thing is Halorn was actually my big inspiration to kind of start. I remember when he was casting back in the day, and like I was on like a very, very small team. We got him as a caster. We were like, oh, we got Halorn, like it's this big deal. So it was really cool. And I from there on, like I watched a bunch of him and some of the other like Forecourt Jester, a lot of those older names, like they're the ones who really inspired me to get further into casting. And eventually, I did it a little bit back home. And then when I moved out west, I was just like, you know what? I will give this a shot. Like I will put in hard work and time into this. And I fell in love with it. I got to know teams. Like there's a bunch of teams in the amateur scene that I've gotten to know. I've become very close friends with. And then people like Hero Physio, one time was actually out of town. He goes, hey, these guys at HeroesHype, they need a caster. I know you're pretty good. Do you want to just give it a shot? And that's actually how I started casting with you guys too. I mean, it's a lot of this just, it's and Argy, I think you actually said it right at the beginning. We have the best community, and like, it's not only players, like there's content creators who look out for each other. Like, he opened the door for a lot of opportunities for me, just, introducing me to you guys. And then even then, like, I just have to pass it on. Like anytime I get messages from people about like, oh, like, hey, can you help me with my setup? Or like, do you have any good references for this or that for OBS or mics or transitions or artists? Like, I'm always willing to try and help people out, because it's one of those things that like getting started with casting is so hard. Like it wasn't until I actually started talking with Grandmaster master players where they would sit down with me and go through my cast, and they'd be like, oh, well, you look at it this way, but this is actually how a Grandmaster looks at it. So it was really interesting to see juxtapositions of views. And I kept falling further and further in love with casting because it's so interesting. You get to meet people, you get to discuss Here's the Storm. I get to come onto podcasts and literally talk about the video game that I love so much. So it's everything about it. I love it so much. I think I hit every point on that.
Yeah. If there's one thing that I love to do, is to talk about Here's the Storm.
Yep.
And I think I can get on people's nerves because I talk about it so much.
I'm that guy at the party.
At Heroes of the Dorm, the HeroesHype after party, we definitely cornered one of the Blizzard devs, Kyle. Okay, dates on Twitter, and was just like, "Hey, what do you think about this hero? Oh, this hero, yeah. Oh, we were there. We were drinking. We were having a good time. And me and him both were just cornered this guy. We need to talk about heroes."
Well, what was phenomenal is like I get so amped up about esports, and I was actually at a bachelor party, and there was a guy who it was like best friends with the groom, and he flew in from Korea for the party, and I was talking with him, and we started talking about esports and like what it's like to live there and how it is here in the United States, because he hasn't lived here in years and he just was visiting for the party. And so it was so interesting to see different perspectives. And like, even then, like, he doesn't understand this game at all. And like, I could make references like, oh, Alarak's in the game. He's like, oh, I know Alarak. Like, so it's just like, it's like, you got to know the High Lord. It's just one of those situations where like it bridges gaps between even different games. Like I play StarCraft for the campaign because I enjoy the story. I'm not a competitive player in that game at all, but I became very good friends with this guy by just literally talking about the one common thing, which is just esports. And it's phenomenal what Here's the Storm has opened up for me in friendship wise and communication wise and growing in my own knowledge. So I gotta say, like, if you're interested in casting or any of that kind of stuff, or just you want to get deeper into Here's the Storm, like there are so many avenues. Like there's always different communities they're looking for. Like, for example, like let's just plug HeroesHype. There's sometimes they're looking for writers, editors. I mean, look at Blizzard. They post job opportunities all the time for temporary jobs as well. So I mean, there's so many ways to get your foot in the door for esports, and it's such a huge, gigantic community. I don't know. I can't talk enough about the positives of it. Like I really can't find flaws.
Yeah. To kind of echo what you said, everyone in this community is helping each other get better. And that's what I love so much. Now, when it comes to jobs, as you said, there are several avenues. And I just want to say one thing that a good friend of mine, when I was first getting into this, told me. And that's to take every opportunity you can. don't unless you have to don't say no.
Right.
Because you don't know necessarily what you want to do when it comes to esports, and you might find something that you love right away. And like I know I started trying to play competitively and it didn't work out. And then I moved behind the scenes, and I've been doing this for close to 2 years, and I absolutely love it, and this is what I want to do for a living. So yeah, like
And that's exactly it. It's the same for me. I thought I was just like, yeah, I can grow as a player. I can become like super, super good, and I'll be like, I'll have a main role and I'll be amazing at this role and I'll be known for it. It's just like, but then I took a back seat. I started casting, and my casting I've had so much more fun with this, and this is more enjoyable for me. And the response from the community is that I do a decent job enough where they'll come back and keep watching it. So definitely I'll keep pushing myself into this further and further.
Confirmed, Bahamut does a decent job.
decent.
Nah. I actually really like your cast.
Thank you, I appreciate
playing
it.
in some of the other tournaments or leagues that you cast. As a sub, typically when they tell me, "Oh, Bahamut's casting," I'm like, cool. I like looking at that beard. It's pretty nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's the only reason.
No, it's not. He talks about my play very well. Dunkstick was very good here. I love to hear those words.
Yeah.
I'm very self-centered.
All right. So let's close it out. Bahamut, I want you to do some shout outs. Talk about yourself. Plug some stuff.
God. Shout outs to, well, of course, Game of Thrones. I mentioned teams and stuff. Game of Thrones, I mean, those guys, they are the team that I pretty much hang out with almost every night, and they'll get like, their captain will literally message me when he's watching their own team replay to pull out stats and go, you mentioned this, and this was your theory for the reason why we picked this. Actually, we got this. And so like, he'll give me good critical feedback. So just major shout out to them. Obviously Hedgie, Derek, Sydney, those three, they're just great people. My dog Bandit, obviously Blizzard, Heroes of the Storm, every person who watches stream, everyone in stream right now, just I can't thank you enough. Like the support that I constantly get from everyone. I mean, like I'll go live and I'll be casting a Division C team for another league, and it's considered the fun. Like it's the lowest league where they're just there to play and have a good time. But there's people who show up and they're just like, they're in Twitch chat, they're rooting for teams back and forth, and it's just the camaraderie between teams and the community is just, it's so exciting. So just literally shout out to everyone.
Dunk, how about you? What do you got this week?
I would like to wish my lovely girlfriend a happy Valentine's Day. I'm sorry I'm in here podcasting for 40 minutes. Not kidding. I'm not sorry. I love this. Thank you for the invite, Argy. Bigger shout out to you for having me on. Appreciate that. Thank you for everyone that's in chat, everyone that's been talking in chat. Thank you for all our listeners and our followers. Thank you for HeroesHype for being the best of the best, Blizz Heroes family for life. And thank you for those of you that check out my stream occasionally. And I'm going to be playing more Heroes, even though I say that every week. And gonna hit Grandmaster this season for real.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Okay.
Argy's gonna get
you only have like a month left, so you better hurry up.
I only need a week.
Good. Anyway. So for myself, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch, the same username, right below me, ArgyHots. I occasionally will stream. I streamed today. I'll either do Heroes or Warcraft. Holy crap. I played those games a lot. For anything HeroesHype related, whether you're EU or North America, head over to HeroesHype.com, and you can look at all of the tournaments that are there, for both divisions, or both regions, I should say. And you can see the standings, any announcements that are going on. Speaking of announcements, we just announced like an hour ago that next week, Cup number 4 will be on the tournament realm with Maiev enabled for both days. And that's going to be exciting.
Juicy.
Because
that's all I got. That's the only thing I got for that. Is just, I'm so excited. And you guys, I got to bring it up. You guys saw the Reddit posted. The
Rich video? I haven't watched it.
There's an asterisk with it because I actually saw some people talking and diving into like how it worked out, but like still, that's a talentless hero that won the game. Like, come on now.
for granted, it is rich. So, but yeah. Anyway, thanks again to Dunk for being my host. It's always a pleasure. Bahamut, thank you for coming on, and thank all of you guys for watching and listening. If you are listening to us on YouTube or iTunes, however you decide to listen to us. So we will see you next week to talk about Cup number 4. Have a good one, guys.